Now, for Snoop to say him and Michael Harris are doing something together as a team, that tells you a lot of, I'm disappointed in that. If it weren't for me, you'd still be in prison.
In a shocking turn of events, Suge Knight, the notorious music mogul, has emerged with what he claims are actual receipts that could send Snoop Dogg to court for M. The decades-long saga between these former collaborators has taken a dark and unexpected twist, as Suge Knight seemingly pulls back the curtain on a chilling chapter from the past. Now we are going to unpack the jaw-dropping evidence, explore the implications of this legal showdown, and get ready for a courtroom battle that could reshape the landscape of hip-hop history. It's a breaking story you can't afford to miss.
They shoot, and the guy got shot in his ass, he stayed up and killed. So now they got a warrant for liquor for him.
Suge Knight emerges once again, bringing fresh insights into the behind-the-scenes dynamics of the 90s West Coast hip-hop scene. He boldly emphasizes his pivotal role in the Snoop Dogg M case, unraveling details in one of the episodes of Collect Call with Suge Knight. This revealing installment via Dave May's Breakbeat Media explores Suge's assertions of having rescued Snoop Dogg from a possible life sentence during his tenure as the head of Death Row Records. Knight confidently declared, quote, "Without me, Snoop would still be serving a life sentence," as he recounted the events surrounding the notorious trial. In 1993, Snoop Dogg and his former bodyguard Malik faced serious charges related to the M of Philip Little Smooth Voldemariam in Los Angeles. Providing a detailed account of the legal maneuvering, Knight recalled a pivotal moment. The lawyer said, quote, "The bodyguard has a 9mm, so we can't argue he protected Snoop and shot the guy. Snoop had a .380. I said, we'd be in trouble if the bodyguard had a .380 and Snoop had a 9mm and he got shot with a .380, right? He got shot with a 9mm. But because Snoop had the .380 and the bodyguard had a 9mm and he got shot with a .380, all the bodyguard has to say is he was using .380 bullets in his 9mm. Knight continued to elaborate on his involvement, asserting that he invested $6 million to resolve lingering issues. This encompassed settling a blackmail attempt within Snoop's inner circle, even consulting with a private investigator to set the narrative straight. According to Knight, this intervention resulted in the elimination of an alleged incriminating tape.
He recorded him. I heard it for myself. The guy wanted to play ball. He got some bread. He destroyed the tape. And that's one of the things.
Suge Knight is casting doubt on the legitimacy of Snoop Dogg's claim to ownership of Death Row Records, alleging that his former protege gained control of the label through illicit means. In an audio recording released by TMZ featuring a phone call with the imprisoned mogul discussing Snoop's current position as owner and CEO of Death Row, Knight contends that Snoop's stake in the label is tied to an alleged criminal act involving the rapper and Michael Harry O. Harris. Harris, a convicted kingpin, was an initial financier of Death Row Records.
If you look at it, they committed fraud. They committed bankruptcy fraud. I didn't lose my company by doing anything wrong. They went in and a lawyer didn't show up, and they got a default judgment.
According to Knight's assertions, when questioned about his views on Snoop's ownership of Death Row, Knight raised doubts about whether Snoop genuinely holds the rightful ownership of the label they both played a role in elevating during the 90s. Expressing skepticism about Snoop's claims, he went on to accuse Michael Harris of engaging in bankruptcy fraud, a revelation he claims he and his legal team uncovered just a week prior to the conversation. The music mogul elaborated, quote, "Snoop has a partner, which is Michael Harris, right?" He further told the outlet, quote, "If you look at it, they committed bankruptcy fraud. I didn't lose my company by doing anything wrong. They went in and the lawyer didn't show up and they got a default judgment. I settled the judgment. They turned around and said I didn't settle the judgment." Referring to the sale of Death Row as illegal and a crime, Knight asserted that Harris's wife and legal team were complicit in the fraudulent activities related to the bankruptcy claim in '95. When they filed for bankruptcy in '95, they asserted it had nothing to do with Death Row. Nothing. And the lawyer also knew, the infamous music executive claimed.
But they committed bankruptcy fraud, which we just found out for sure last week. When they filed bankruptcy in '95, they said it had nothing to do with Death Row or anything.
Continuing to make his case, Knight emphasized the inconsistency in the legalities surrounding the sale and acquisition of Death Row Records in light of Harris's previous bankruptcy filing. Quote, "You can't take a person who committed the worst crime of the century to take death row from black people to try to give it to white people," he said, "and think you're gonna turn around and reward and say he's gonna grab Snoop and he's gonna go get it back and have death row. It don't work like that. So if we're gonna talk about something, let's talk about it." In the course of the conversation, Knight expressed his belief that ownership of many of Death Row's most acclaimed releases will eventually be transferred back to him, asserting, quote, "I am Death Row. Suge Knight is Death Row." He made it clear that he is not prepared to relinquish ties to the label he played a pivotal role in constructing without a formidable battle.
And you can't commit bankruptcy fraud and settle and do those type of things. So the same guy you see in the series, when you see all of his deposition in prison.
In February 2022, it was disclosed that Snoop had taken control of Death Row Records through a deal with MNRK Music Group. Although the specific terms of the agreement were undisclosed, Snoop released a statement in response to the news, marking a significant moment in the rap legend's illustrious career. Quote, "I am thrilled and appreciative of the opportunity to acquire the iconic and culturally significant Death Row Records brand, which has immense untapped future value," shared the Gin and Juice rapper. "It feels good to have ownership of the label I was part of at the beginning of my career and as one of the founding members. This is an extremely meaningful moment for me. I would like to personally thank the teams at Blackstone, MNRK, and especially David Kessenbaum, who worked collaboratively with me over several months to make this exciting homecoming a reality. I'm looking forward to building the next chapter of Death Row Records." However, Snoop Dogg himself has disclosed an incident where he narrowly avoided an attack by Death Row associates, leading to his brief incarceration. The unsettling episode was recounted by Snoop on Bet's No Limit Chronicles, detailing a backstage confrontation at the No Limit Records I Got the Hookup Comedy Jam in Los Angeles in May 1998. At that time, Snoop had recently severed ties with Death Row in favor of No Limit Records. The altercation arose when Snoop, confronted by individuals loyal to then Death Row Records CEO Suge Knight, found himself in a tense situation over remarks he had made about Knight. Responding to Knight's assertion that Snoop had transitioned from being a superstar to a No Limit soldier, Snoop responded with a succinct nothing, adding, quote, "He used to be a CEO, now he's just an inmate," before delivering a middle finger to the camera, presumably aimed at Knight. Backstage, Snoop was surrounded by Knight's associates, demanding an apology. When Snoop's response fell short, a physical altercation ensued. Fortunately, Snoop managed to escape unharmed, but the incident did cause chaos, prompting other No Limit rappers, including Master P, to interrupt their onstage performance and rush to Snoop's aid.
DJ's got the record spinning. There's gunshots on the song, but audience doesn't know that. So now riot is happening. You know, you see the rate.
Amidst the chaos with gunshots echoing in the background music, the bewildered audience unwittingly added to the pandemonium, resulting in a riot. Despite successfully avoiding the attack, Snoop's night took an unforeseen twist. In an attempt to secure his safety, Snoop unintentionally crossed paths with law enforcement, leading to the discovery of an M in his possession. He found himself handcuffed and seated in the back of a police car, recounting, quote, "I got away. No cuts, no scars, no hits, no nothing, but I run right into the law, with weed in my pocket and everything because I'm trying to save my life. They handcuffed me, they put me in the back of the police car." On that fateful night, both Snoop Dogg and his cousin, rapper Daz Dillinger, ended up behind bars due to marijuana possession. To their surprise, upon entering the jail, they were greeted by a familiar face, Ray J. Recounting the incident with a touch of humor, Snoop shared, quote, "They take me and my cousin Daz to jail, and when we get in there, Ray J is in there. So we spend 4 hours in jail with Ray J. I'm not fabricating this, man. I'm not making this up." Adding to the shock, the noteworthy detail in this series of events is Snoop's involvement in an M. In an interview on the Black Effect podcast network with Cam Capone News, McKinley Lee Jr., Snoop Dogg's former bodyguard, provided a detailed account of the 93 M of a rival gang member that resulted in first-degree M charges for both Snoop and Lee.
I do my job, and unfortunately somebody died, but I told the truth from the very beginning. And I don't think that people really knew that.
As the story goes, following a heated confrontation with recognized gang members outside Snoop Dogg's West Los Angeles apartment one August afternoon, Snoop and Lee found themselves face-to-face with the same individuals once again. Detailing the tense sequence of events, McKinley Lee Jr. narrated, quote, "We heard some commotion downstairs and I'm thinking, I know Snoop didn't go outside without me." Reacting swiftly, Lee grabbed his gun as he headed downstairs to address the unfolding drama, with Snoop closely trailing behind. Lee continued, quote, "I stop at the end of the stairs and I see a guy leaning out of a car. He can't see me and he's just barking back and forth with one of the guys. I can't really remember exactly what he looked like, but I just saw the light-skinned face and then I saw a gun come out of the window. So at that time there was no threat. Snoop was right here, it wasn't anything. It was just real quick. I take off and get Snoop upstairs. Thinking the situation had de-escalated, Lee and Snoop hopped into a truck to head to the studio for further work on Snoop Dogg's solo debut Doggy Style. However, realizing they forgot a recording device, Snoop, who was driving, made a U-turn to return to the apartment. While en route, they encountered someone standing in the middle of the street attempting to flag them down. The person explained that the light-skinned man who had pulled a gun was diabetic and had forgotten to take his medicine.
After all of this, I realized that may have prompted him to the things that he did and why he reached and all that. I don't know. I'm looking for answers myself.
In the midst of their conversation, McKinley Lee Jr. detected movement in the bushes, and alleged gang member Philip Lil Smooth Voldemariam emerged. Voldemariam approached another individual who pushed him away. Lee recounted that the man then revealed a weapon by lifting his shirt, seemingly reaching for it. Detailing the pivotal moment, Lee explained, quote, "When I saw him start to reach, that's when I took my gun and I fired. There was a little incline. My hope was, I wanted to hit him in the lower part of his body, so as I'm aiming, he's turning, and as I'm aiming here, I fire. When he was turning, he got hit in the hip and in the shoulder blade. Unfortunately, the one that went through his hip went through him and his shoulder. He takes off and he runs. We find out that when he ran, he dropped about 50 yards or 75 yards away. He dropped right there, and that's unfortunately when he died." McKinley Lee Jr. went on to elaborate on the aftermath, revealing that Philip Voldemariam's friends swiftly retrieved the gun, making it untraceable when the police arrived. Despite the circumstances, Lee and Snoop Dogg made the decision to turn themselves in, albeit not immediately. Instead, they waited until after the '93 MTV Video Music Awards. "After we made the call, we had to wait for our attorneys," Lee explained. "So the next day they came and that's when we were going to turn ourselves in. We didn't turn ourselves in the next day. We had to wait, so we waited until everything calmed down. Snoop was at the MTV Video Music Awards and they came to arrest him. I was not. So I had to wait until everything died down, and that's when we decided it was best. Police had already known what was going on cause we said we were going to turn ourselves in." Facing first-degree M charges, Snoop Dogg and McKinley Lee Jr. underwent trial in '95. Throughout the proceedings, it was revealed that Jason London, a friend of the deceased Voldemariam, had concealed the gun to protect his fallen comrade. Defended by renowned lawyer Johnny Cochran, Snoop and Lee were acquitted on February 20th, '96. After their acquittal, Snoop made a solemn commitment to stop rapping about M, a decision that disappointed some fans and friends. During a conversation with Fat Man Scoop in January, Snoop explained, "On my second album, The Dogfather, when I beat my M case, I redirected my pen to write life because I felt like I had written death all up until that point. When I started writing The Dogfather, I lost a lot of fans. I lost a lot of homies because they wanted me to keep it gangsta after beating the M case. They wanted me to glamorize and glorify. But I was like, somebody's life was lost. My life has changed. This is a real situation." In the context of the change in ownership of Death Row Records, Suge Knight expressed strong emotions about losing control of the iconic label. He claimed unfair treatment, stating, "They tried to F me out of my company." Knight directed his frustration towards Snoop Dogg and Michael Harris, a pivotal figure in the early days of Death Row.
Since he says he didn't give the guy the money, he called the DA. The DA put him with the PI. The PI met with him, and he told him proof.
Knight revealed that his ownership of Death Row encountered a significant threat when he unintentionally filed for bankruptcy in 2006, citing what he claimed was a wrongful default judgment in court. This matter had been previously discussed by Knight in a jail cell with TMZ earlier in the year. Knight argued that Snoop and Harris engaged in bankruptcy fraud to gain control of Death Row, emphasizing that he didn't lose the company through any wrongdoing on his part. "Snoop has a partner, which is Michael Harris, right?" Knight explained. "If you look at it, they committed bankruptcy fraud. I didn't lose my company by doing anything wrong. They went in and the lawyer didn't show up and they got a default judgment. I settled the judgment, they turned around and said I didn't settle the judgment." Despite Snoop and Harris officially taking ownership of Death Row in 2022, Knight dismissed the legitimacy of their claim. He further asserted that Snoop wouldn't be in his current position if it were not for the support Knight provided when Snoop was a Death Row member. Quote, "For Snoop to say he and Michael Harris are doing something as a team, that tells you I'm disappointed in that mother effer because if it wasn't for me, you'd still be in prison doing life." Knight stated on Collect Call, Quote, "You turn around and say you've partnered up with this dude. Neither one of y'all got death row or bought death row or purchased death row." Expanding on his claims, Knight asserted that he played a pivotal role in Snoop's 96 M case acquittal. According to Knight, initially, Snoop's legal team had doubts about proving his innocence. However, after Knight allegedly paid off a key witness who was set to testify against Snoop, the rapper secured a not guilty verdict.
Snoop Doggy Dogg. A judge in Los Angeles refused today to drop murder charges against him.
We, the jury in the above entitled action, find the defendant, Calvin Brodus, not guilty of the crime.
Suge Knight delved into more anecdotes, shedding light on his entanglements with legal matters and the music industry. He expressed profound disappointment in Snoop Dogg's collaboration with Michael Harris, whom he accused of committing fraud against him. Knight questioned Snoop's loyalty, stating, quote, "For me to put my own freedom at stake to make sure this guy doesn't go to prison. To go back and partner up with Michael Harris, who committed fraud against me, and say they're gonna try to take death row, you should have tried to get it back to its rightful owner. You didn't represent death row when you were on death row." In the subsequent segment of the conversation, Knight recounted a similar incident involving Dr. Dre, who had signed with death row in the early 1990s. Allegedly, Dre sought Knight's assistance in acquiring a gun through illegal means. Knight facilitated the connection with a gun dealer, leading to his arrest for involvement in the matter. Faced with a choice between serving jail time himself or allowing Dre to face legal consequences, Knight opted to take responsibility for Dre's actions. Consequently, he spent a brief period in jail before being granted probation. Knight also claimed to have intervened to ensure Dre did not face imprisonment for other offenses during their association.
The police knew the PI for the DA. They was willing to talk to me because they say this guy is going to testify.
In the final segment of the episode, Suge Knight reflected on a pivotal moment when he posted the $1.4 million bail for Tupac Shakur, facilitating the rapper's release from a New York prison in late 1995. Knight acknowledged Tupac's girlfriend at the time, Keisha, for playing a crucial role in making the bail possible. He underscored, quote, "If it wasn't for Keisha, y'all wouldn't have heard All Eyes on Me or any of the other hits Tupac did." This highlighted Keisha's significant impact on Tupac's life and career during a critical period. It's worth noting that not only Keisha was involved in the case, but there are reports suggesting that Suge Knight also had a role in Tupac's legal situation. As the details unfold, one may wonder about the events surrounding the iconic rapper's life and the mysteries that have lingered for over 2 decades, particularly in connection to the unsolved M that continues to cast a haunting shadow over the music industry and Tupac's devoted fan base. Recent indications suggest that the elusive truth may finally be emerging from the shadows.
The arrest in the Tupac Shakur murder 27 years later really shocked everyone.
In a surprising twist that seems to be straight out of a sensational scandal, Las Vegas detectives have successfully apprehended Dwayne Keefe D. Davis, a 60-year-old gang leader notorious for his involvement in various illicit activities. The arrest of Davis has sent shockwaves through the entertainment industry, providing a glimmer of hope to those who have longed for justice in the still unsolved Tupac Shakur M case.
The family has reached out to my office, I imagine also to Metro. We've been in communication with them. We understand that they are welcoming this news. They are pleased with this news.
Mopreme Shakur, Tupac's stepbrother, found himself entangled in a whirlwind of emotions upon learning about the arrest. He termed it bittersweet, his raised eyebrow betraying the acknowledgement that they had long been cognizant of Keefe D's involvement. The lingering question, valued at $1 million, persists. Why did it take authorities so long to apprehend a suspect who had been openly confessing his role in the crime?
We were just all in the car together.
This was the white Cadillac.
Yeah.
The recent arrest has resurfaced past traumas for Tupac's family. For decades, they have carried the heavy burden of mourning the loss of an iconic figure without any semblance of retribution. Despite the solitary arrest, a multitude of conspiracy theories surrounding the M has persisted over the years, and it is unlikely that this single apprehension will significantly shift people's perspectives. Mopreme steadfastly believes that more individuals were involved in his brother's M, and he is urging authorities to intensify their investigation to identify everyone responsible.
We deal with the loss. My nieces, nephews, my sister, my brothers, we all miss him.
Sakiwa Shakur, Tupac's sister, finds some solace in Keffe D's arrest. She expressed, quote, "This is no doubt a pivotal moment. The silence of the past 27 years surrounding this case has spoken loudly in our community. It's important to me that the world, the country, the justice system, and our people acknowledge the gravity of the passing of this man, my brother, my mother's son, my father's son." During a compelling press conference following Keffe D's arrest, Homicide Lieutenant Jason Johansson spoke candidly, identifying Davis as the leader and shot caller, sparking a flurry of inquiries. Interestingly, a substantial portion of the case's facts had been in the possession of law enforcement since the initial stages of the investigation. However, the case took an unforeseen twist when Keffe D began making admissions to his involvement in 2018.
Members of the Southside Compton Crips, which included Dwayne Davis, along with his nephew Orlando Anderson, were also in attendance at the same event.
Nevertheless, insiders claim that law enforcement officers have discreetly reached out to rap mogul Suge Knight as part of their investigation into suspect Keffe D. According to these sources, Las Vegas Metropolitan Police have made efforts to establish contact with the former Death Row Records boss, potentially seeking his involvement as a witness or corroborator in the case they are building against the Compton gangster.
This investigation, subsequent arrest, and now indictment is only the beginning of the process. And we are committed and invested in ensuring a successful prosecution.
In recent months, a magazine has reported the law enforcement officials have been in talks with members of Suge Knight's family and legal team regarding the possibility of him sharing information about Keffe D's activities on the night of the 96M.
Mary and Suge Knight were closely affiliated with the Mob Piru criminal street gangs, and that they had an ongoing feud with the Southside Compton Crips.
A well-placed legal source stated, quote, "Suge is the best eyewitness in this case, given he stared down the barrel of the gun when Keffe and his nephew pulled up alongside them on that fateful night in Las Vegas. While members of Keffe's crew are all dead, Suge remains the only witness still alive to have got a prime view of the crime. It's delicate to have Suge as a witness because of his troubled past and his actions in court over the years. But the truth remains he is the one man who could identify Keffe as being in the car at that time. That evidence would be significant and effectively be key corroboration to the DA's case. What sets Keffe D apart from typical suspects in this case is his remarkable willingness to publicly disclose information. He openly acknowledged his presence at the scene of the '96 drive-by shooting that resulted in Tupac's tragic demise. Going even further, he confessed to transferring the M weapon to another gang member, revealing concealed secrets within the hip-hop industry.
Suge just ducked his head, and the first bullet went in his head. So the next one's hit him. It was like he was doing a breakdance trying to jump in the back seat or something.
But wait, the revelations don't stop there. In a stunning 2019 tell-all memoir titled Compton Street Legend, Keffe D laid bare the details of his involvement. He asserted that he had been cruising in the very same Cadillac implicated in the shooting. In this explosive literary work, he disclosed that he had, in fact, informed authorities about his role in the K as early as 2010 during a highly confidential meeting with federal and local law enforcement. However, Davis claimed that the authorities had promised him immunity in return for his cooperation, leading to raised eyebrows regarding the handling of the case.
You know what I'm saying? But, you got it in a book. You done played it, everything else, you know what I'm saying? Yeah.
Now, as the police pressure Suge to testify, there's one person who seems to be under scrutiny: Diddy. Why Diddy? Well, it's a well-known fact that Suge was also in the car on the night of the shooting. People believe that Diddy might be feeling uneasy now, because Suge possesses knowledge about everything that transpired that night. Tupac Shakur, a young 25-year-old, met his tragic end on the night of September 7th, 1996 in Las Vegas. Struck by 4 bullets to the chest, his untimely passing sent shockwaves around the world, and now Keffe D's audacity in openly discussing his involvement in the crime is sending tremors through the music industry, particularly given the high-profile nature of the case.
It looked like he was reaching, yeah. Yeah, it did.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you actually see a gun?
No, shit. Once he got the reaching, I got the ducking.
The theories surrounding Diddy's potential involvement gain credibility when one delves into the enigmatic motives and concealed intentions beneath the surface. Detective Greg Kading, a former member of the Los Angeles Police Department deeply involved in the Tupac Shakur M investigation, sheds light on the intricate web of Diddy's alleged role. Kading proposes that Diddy's possible motive could have been to protect himself from that of Suge Knight, who was actively seeking retribution for the '95 death of a friend in Atlanta, an incident for which he held Diddy accountable. Greg said, quote, "Perhaps what they were doing was saying, he's already tied the noose, now let's let him hang himself. You didn't just say it twice, you didn't just say it 5 times. And so now you've got this compilation of so many confessions. The perception is that it's going to be hard for him at this point to say, hey, I was just kind of boasting, making stuff up." The real intrigue lies in how Diddy became aware of Suge Knight's vengeful intentions. It's almost as if he had a crystal ball foreseeing the impending danger. This awareness does raise a significant question mark, hinting that Diddy might have had access to inside information potentially through someone connected to Suge Knight's inner circle. And who could better fit that description than Keefe D, the central figure of the movement, renowned for his reputed gang affiliations?
I think he should look out, you know what I'm saying? He worth $1 billion, he should come look out, come build a basketball gym at our Parkers, do something.
And looks like fans are also in support of Suge, as one of them commented, quote, "I know Suge ain't perfect, but I'm glad he is speaking that real time to expose all liars." Another added, quote, "Snoop has become that guy that you don't believe a thing he says." Now the plot thickens as Suge Knight, armed with what he claims are actual receipts, is gearing up to take Snoop Dogg to court for murder. Not only that, Suge's revelations are causing quite a stir among the rappers who were associated with different cases. But with the help of Suge, they managed to save themselves. However, people are now raising questions about the justice system as well.